Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinnells. I'm cutting in ahead of time tonight because this is a special two-part episode, and this is part two. If you haven't listened to part one, I suggest you go back to last week's episode and listen to that. I realized after I recorded it, because we didn't originally intend it to be a two-part episode, I didn't really give you a good intro into episode number 2. So let me do that for you right now. In the second half of the episode, we're going to be talking about the end of the murders and everything, but just to catch you up in case you forgot, or you haven't listened to the other episode and you want to start with number 2 for some reason, what's going on is this. It's 1946. There is a masked killer on the loose, and he has been targeting people on lonely lovers' lanes, couples. One couple survived in the very first attack, and the other 2 were not so lucky. There is also a pattern here where he is shooting people specifically in the face. Nobody knows what's going on, but there's a lot of rumors going around, which Sheriff Presley and Texas Ranger Lone Wolf Gonzalez have to try to separate fact from fiction and keep reminding people not to spread rumors. That said, let's get back into the episode. Welcome back to Spooky Ass Shit. This is part 2 of my exclusive interview with Brian Toney regarding the Moonlight Murders of Texarkana.
This is an interview now? I didn't do nothing, man.
I did ask your opinions.
That's true.
All right, Brian, before we get into it, again, let me just remind everyone, check out the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place. That is the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to every episode, sometimes find some outtakes, pictures, related videos, everything to each episode. You can also find our social media links. We are at spookyasshit on both Instagram and Twitter, and you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyasshit. Now, let's continue talking about the Moonlight Murders, the Phantom Killer of Texarkana. Friday, May 3rd, sometime before 9 p.m., Virgil Starks, age 37. He was a farmer and a welder. He was at his home, located about 10 miles northeast of Texarkana. He turned on his favorite weekly radio show, while his wife, Katie, age 36, gave him a heating pad for his sore back.
So much detail. Something fucked up is about to happen.
He sat in his armchair in the living room, reading the paper. While Katie was in the bedroom, lying on her bed in her nightgown, she heard something in the backyard and asked Virgil to turn down the radio. Seconds later, 2 shots were fired into the back of Virgil's head from a closed window 3 feet behind him. Katie did not hear the gunshots. Instead, she heard what sounded like the breaking of glass. She thought Virgil dropped something and went to see what had happened. As she entered the doorway to the living room, she saw Virgil standing and then suddenly slumped back down into his chair. She saw blood and then ran to him, lifting up his head. When she realized he was dead, she ran to the phone to call the police. But this is 1946. So it's not like she took out her cell phone. She had to go to the wall phone and crank it.
Yeah.
To turn it on.
Don't like her chances.
The wall crank phone, she only was able to crank it 2 times before she was shot twice in the face from the same window. One bullet entered her right cheek and exited behind her left ear. The other went into her lower jaw just below her lip, breaking and splintering out several teeth before lodging itself under her tongue.
Ugh.
She dropped to her knees, but soon managed to get to her feet. She ran to get the pistol from the living room, but her face was so covered in blood it was dripping into her eyes she couldn't see. She heard the killer tearing loose the rusted screen wire door on the back porch. She thought she was going to be killed. Good guess. So she stumbled towards the bedroom near the front of the house to leave a note.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't say specifically what she intended to write, but presumably, I don't know, some guy came in and shot. I don't know what she was going to write.
I don't know. Goodbye, Aunt Sally.
Could be.
We had some good times.
Meanwhile, the killer ran to the back of the house and made his way up the steps and into the side-screened porch through the back door. She heard the killer trying to make his way through the kitchen window, so she turned around and ran out the front door, leaving behind a, quote, virtual river of blood and teeth.
God damn it.
That's how the police described it later on. Through the house and across the street. The barefoot and still in her nightgown, which had become blood-soaked, she ran across the street to her sister and brother-in-law's house. But since no one was home, they didn't answer the door, and she ran 50 more yards to another neighbor's. This was the Prater's house. Mr. Prater answered her call for help, and she gasped, "Virgil is dead," and then she just collapsed. Prater shot his rifle into the air, and this summoned another neighbor, Elmer Taylor. Prater said, "Taylor, you go and get your car because the Starks have been shot." And Taylor, along with the Prater family and their baby, rode to Mrs. Starks to the hospital. She was in a semi-conscious state, slumping forward on the front seat. Although she did lose a considerable amount of blood, she actually didn't show any signs of going into shock, and her heart rate remained normal the whole time. At the hospital, Mrs. Stark was questioned by police.
Not right away, right?
I know, so she's got no jaw.
We skipped a couple days. Okay.
When police went to investigate the Starks' home, they discovered that the chair that Virgil had been resting in was on fire because of the heating pad. There's an electrical heating pad.
Oh, man.
But there's conflicting reports as to whether his body was in the chair or not. But
rumors, you might say?
Yeah. It seems like the body either wasn't burned at all or was not badly burned. Investigators declared that after the killer shot Virgil, he waited patiently outside the house to shoot the wife. 3 clues were found at the scene. The first was a bullet. The second was a flashlight that was found in a hedge underneath the window that the Starks were shot from. The last clue were some bloody prints that were left around the house, shoe prints on the kitchen floor, and a smudged fingerprint in other places.
Wait, so they think he went in the house?
He definitely went in the house.
Okay. I think I missed something. I thought he was like trying to get
out.
in. Right.
Yeah, she ran out while he was coming in through the kitchen window.
So he did get in the window. Okay.
Yeah. So what he did in the house, maybe he thought she was still there. We don't know, but
all right.
Sheriff Davis stated that although this murder could not be directly linked to the Phantom Killer because the caliber of the bullet was not a .32 but a .22, he said it is possible that the killer is one and the same man.
Yeah.
Some people don't think it was, though, because the MO is kind of different here. It's not a lover's lane.
It's more of a sniper, but I feel like he's... If this is the same person, he's definitely added some new techniques over the course of these attacks.
Yeah. Well, the police set up blockades for miles around the crime scene, and those who had been driving in the area near the time of the murder, or just several men that they found in the vicinity, they were all picked up for questioning. Early Saturday morning, bloodhounds were brought in. They found 2 trails that led to the highway before the scent was lost. That night, many officers patrolled lovers' lanes hoping to prevent another attack. By Sunday night, more state police officials were called in to help investigate and to aid in protecting the local populace. Officers detained at least 12 suspects, but kept only 3 for further questionings. The unofficial theory for the motive amongst the majority of the officers working on the case was that the attacker was some kind of sex maniac.
I mean, Yeah. Sex mania. I mean, they would say sex maniac back in the 40s if, like, you wore your dress too short. So it does seem like there's a sexual component here, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the leap I would have made.
Well, they thought this because there were large amounts of money in the Starks home, and
Right.
it wasn't taken. It didn't look like anything had been stolen. Mrs. Stark's purse was lying on the bed, and it contained money and jewels. And it was also, none of the stuff was taken from the home. Yeah.
But so the authorities do think it's the same guy, or they're treating the investigation.
At the time
as
they
if it's
did.
the same
Later
guy.
on this is 1946. In 1948, they kind of said like, well, we kind of think maybe it wasn't the same guy now.
No.
But then they're always lumped together now. So it
having
seems like,
caught neither
yeah.
in 1948. Spoilers.
Yeah, so after this one, there was a reward fund set up for $7,000.
Which is 1.6 million in today's money.
Not quite, but it's a good chunk of change.
It's pretty good. All right.
And that night, during a radio interview, Lone Wolf Gonzalez asked residents to help the investigation by refraining from spreading and repeating rumors.
I mean, we would help, but you keep saying you're a lone wolf, so I feel like that might hinder your effectiveness.
Yeah, he stated that, quote, "These only take officers from the main route of the investigation. It is so important that we capture this man that we cannot afford to overlook any lead, no matter how fantastic it may seem."
I mean, I'm with that. It makes sense. You get a tip. You gotta check it out. But I can't imagine that that's why you're not successful. May contribute, but...
On Thursday morning, May 9th, Sheriff Davis was notified that the flashlight, which was found at the Starks murder scene, contained no fingerprints. On Wednesday, May 29th, a color picture was printed on the front page of the Texarkana Gazette showing the flashlight. It
Okay, all right.
It was the paper's first color photograph.
So boring. Your first color picture. Check this baby out. What color was it? Was it black?
It was black and red.
Oh, okay. At least there's a little pop in there. That's good.
On Thursday morning, May 9, Sheriff Davis was notified. I already read that. 4 days later, Sheriff Davis talked with the Starks again at the hospital. Well, not the Starks. He talked with Mrs. Starks again at the hospital. She discounted the rumor circulating that Virgil had been hearing a car outside his home for several nights in a row, and that he had stated that he was afraid of the Moonlight Murderer, the Phantom Killer.
Yeah. Rational.
Well, she said it wasn't true.
Oh, wait,
he didn't
say it
hear
again?
these things.
I think I heard that.
There were rumors going around that Virgil had been saying, like, I keep hearing a car and I'm afraid this is going to be the Phantom Killer coming to get us.
Oh.
But she was saying, no, that never happened.
That's the rumor you start? Ugh.
In the May 11th edition of the Texarkana Gazette, Sheriff Presley and Chief of Police Jack Runnels asked for any information on missing persons on the night of the murders. Somebody in Texarkana or in Bowie or Miller counties knows that somebody else was out of pocket on these nights. February 23rd, March 23rd or 24th, April 13th or 14th, and May 3rd. And Sheriff W.H. Presley and Chief of Police Jack Runnels want persons having such information to report it immediately, said the newspaper. In a joint statement, the officers stated, quote, "We want every man and woman in these two counties to recall the dates of these murders and also to recall whether or not any person close to them were missing or out of pocket during those nights."
All right. This is bad. This is really dumb. So you don't want people spreading rumors, but you want them to imagine that they can think back several months and then...
Remember who's out of pocket.
Yeah. I'm sure you won't get any spurious leads from this.
Continue the quote. "Persons who have such information and have been withholding it when they know it should report it you're leaving themselves open to possible charges of complicity. Nope. Complicity in the... Try that whole sentence again. Persons who have such information and have been withholding it when they know they should report it are leaving themselves open to possible charges of complicity in the event the slayer is captured. Make no mistake about the fact that the slayer will be captured, because we will not give up this hunt until he has been captured or killed. All information received will be treated confidentially. We urge you to come in and tell what you know. Don't be hesitant or fear that you are causing an innocent man embarrassment and trouble, inasmuch as all investigations will be confidential. This is no time to take any chance on information which might lead us to the killer. This maniac must be captured. We believe that we are justified in going to any means to halt his chain of murder. Bear in mind, this killer may strike at anyone. He may strike at persons close to him. For that reason, we believe any person with information may lead us to the murder. For that reason, we believe that any person with information that may lead us to the murderer should act in the interest of self-preservation.
Cool. I mean, a lot of things about that. I hate to break it to you, Sheriff. He's a sheriff? Is that right?
It was the sheriff and the,
Okay.
and the chief.
But I'm from the future, and you didn't catch him. Yeah. I'm sure you're setting up this irony on purpose, but
well,
don't spread rumors, but literally anything, because you could be next. Let me rephrase that. You're going to die if you don't tell us the things you think you remember about Cousin Al. Ah, boy.
So after the first double murder, some parents warned their children about staying out too late. They were like, "Oh, just don't be out too late because you might get murdered."
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a big, huge concern, right?
But none of the victims have been like super young. I mean, they have
teenage,
yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
is that what you were talking about?
yeah.
Not kids, all right.
The
Because
second
there's
double-
always like an older person involved, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of.
Although I suppose
except
you
for
wouldn't-
the Booker and Martin case.
I guess you wouldn't be able to, if you were going to sneak up on a lover's lane, you wouldn't check IDs.
Well, Virgil, the Starks were
Or like,
in their 30s.
yeah.
And then Martin and Booker were both teenagers.
Oh, they were. Okay. I guess I didn't have that.
It was the first one
dome.
where one was 17 and one was 29.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the second double murder shocked the city, curfews were set for businesses. The height of the town's hysteria snowballed after the murder of the Starks, of Virgil Stark. Before, it was normal to leave your house unlocked, but soon the residents started locking doors, pulling down shades, blocking windows, and arming themselves with guns. And all the local town shops were sold out of locks and guns and all that stuff. Mrs. Stark did survive, by the way. She was okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe not okay, but she survived.
She's not great.
Yeah. She'd had better nights.
It had an adverse effect on her life.
Yeah. Texarkana residents kept the police busy by flooding the station with reports of prowlers. One officer stated that nearly all of these reports were the result of excitement, wild imagination, or hysteria. Farmhouses and neighborhoods blazed with lights because no one was turning off their lights at night. The city became a virtual ghost town. Because of the drop in business, liquor stores started to close at 9:30, and one of them even posted a statement in the newspaper saying, "We fully understand the state of mind in which Texarkana is now gripped. We are selling no liquor to persons who have already been drinking. We do not wish...
That's what it took.
We do not wish to add further to the troubles of the police. Any person who drinks whiskey at this time to get drunk and to wander about the streets of Texarkana is further complicating the works of the police and is placing himself in grave danger of being shot by people whose nerves are on edge from the recent murders."
Yep. Public drunkenness. Cool before, not cool now. Tell your friends.
The citizens of Texarkana were so jittery and armed with guns that Texarkana had become a very dangerous place. Officers had to run their sirens when they were driving up and get out and stand in front of their headlights and announce themselves to keep from being shot by nervous homeowners. In order to visit somebody's house, you would have to call in advance and let them know exactly when to expect you, so they didn't shoot you when you showed up at their door.
So it sounds like this is the precise series of events that got us to the way life is today, because all of these things sound very normal to me.
Lone Wolf Gonzalez helped fuel the hysteria when he announced on a radio program Tuesday evening that Texarkana should, quote, oil up their guns and see if they are loaded. Put them out of the reach of children, and do not use them unless necessary. But if you believe it is necessary, do not hesitate.
See, there's the Texas in him.
When asked what advice he could give to quiet the town's fears, he responded, I'd tell them to check those locks and bolts on their doors and get a double-barreled shotgun to take care of any intruder who tried to get in.
Neat.
Later that week, Tuesday night of that very same week, many residents around East 9th Street were alarmed and called the Gazette and the News, saying that they believe another murder had been committed because they could hear police sirens. The sirens, it turned out, were just sound effects from the carnival. And these kind of things were happening all over town. Police were being called, and it was constantly like turning out to be nothing. Like someone was like, there's a strange man standing in my neighbor's porch, and it was just a guy who it had been raining that day, and he was waiting for a bus. So to get out of the rain, he just went and stood underneath the porch. A bartender shot a man in the foot who approached the bar after it had closed. But he didn't realize that it was closed. So
okay.
Yeah. So these kind of things were happening all around town. On Thursday, May 9th, the Two State Press, which was a local newspaper, announced Texarkana people are jittery, plain frightened, and with reason. Within a period of 6 weeks, 5 people have been murdered in cold blood, and a 6th was seriously wounded, escaping death by a seeming miracle. The question on the minds of most citizens is when, where, and how soon will another tragedy shock the community? And who will the victim or victims? And who will be the victim or victims? Since 2 deaths seem to be the design of the killer.
Wait, what does that mean? Only 2 were on purpose?
No, they're saying that like each time this guy strikes, it seems like he wants to kill 2 people.
Oh, it's always 2 people. Okay.
Yeah. Although most of the town lived in fear of the phantom, some teenagers continued parking on these lonely roads. Some of them were actually hoping to apprehend the phantom killer.
Not recommended.
One night, Officer Tillman Johnson was patrolling a lonely road with Arkansas State Trooper Charlie Boyd when they came across a parked car. Johnson got out of the patrol car while Boyd stayed behind. Johnson walked up to the car and noticed a couple. He said, I am Tillman Johnson of the Miller County Sheriff's Department. Aren't you scared to be out here parked at night? The girl replied, You're the one that ought to be scared, mister. It's a good thing you said who you were.
Bad.
She then revealed that she'd been pointing a pistol at him the whole time.
Yep.
I just feel like you have to say certain things in an accent to really get. I'm not saying I have a perfect Texas
no, I thought it was
1946
flawless.
Teenage ladies accent. I'm just
It
saying.
sounded a little more like 47, but I'll let it go because I like you.
Thanks.
No, if the ones who were not trying to, thwart I wouldn't say a mastermind, but a murderer. That's not a great look. But the ones who were just still going out and making out, of course you do. Why are you out here? It's dangerous. Because everybody's fucking insane in our town. We got to get out here to be away from bartenders who shoot people. We're out here to clear our heads.
Well, apparently, the Texas Rangers actually thought this was kind of a good idea, even though they didn't want teenagers going out there exactly. But they, on their own, anyway.
Vigilantism?
So what Lone Wolf Gonzalez said was, he's like, well, maybe we can bait the phantom out. Let's recruit some teenagers.
No.
Texas Rangers, you got some sons and daughters, so bring them out.
What is happening?
We'll have them as decoys parked in cars while the officers hide in the bushes nearby.
I can't think of a single flaw in this plan.
Some young officers also volunteered to be decoys. 21 Jump Street style.
Yep.
And some had actual partners, and some had mannequins.
You're propagating the myth. Don't do it.
After the murders of Booker and Martin, some officers hid in trees along Spring Lake Park. Despite all these efforts, the Phantom never took the bait.
And some of the officers developed unhealthy relationships with mannequins.
Hey, what goes on in that patrol car? Anthony LaPalala
Nice.
was a psychologist at the Federal Correctional Institution in Texarkana. And he was asked to do kind of a profile on the guy.
Oh, okay, so there's a federal prison in Texarkana.
Yeah. He believed that the killer was planning to continue to make unexpected attacks, such as the one on Virgil Starks on the outskirts of town. He said this because he said, the cops kind of know his MO is going up to Lover's Lane, so now he's changing his MO.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to keep trying to change it and be on the outskirts of town so that the police won't be right on his ass. He believed the killer was between the ages of mid-30s to 50 years old. He said the killer was apparently motivated by a strong sex drive and that he would also be a sexual sadist. He said that the person who would commit such crimes is intelligent, clever, and shrewd. He believed the killer knew at all times what was being done in the investigation and that he knew that the lonesome roads were being patrolled, which is why he attacked a farmhouse instead. He also said that this man could be leading a normal life half the time, appearing to be a good, regular citizen. He also said that he is probably not a veteran of the Army or other armed forces, because if the man had served in the armed forces for even a little while, his maniacal tendencies would have been apparent to the military.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You never have
Never hear about that,
ex-military
right?
people bugging out? Never.
He said that the murderer was not necessarily a resident of the area despite his knowledge of the area. He said the killer may have researched... He said the killer may have reasoned through his past crimes that the only way to remain unidentified is to kill the people at the scene of the crime. He did not believe the killer was a black man because, quote, in general, Negro criminals are not that clever.
Yep, Texas. More Texas.
I'm just doing accents, that's all.
No, I'm just saying.
Suspects.
Quotes were cool. Actually, quotes are still cool. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, think of all the quotes you've left behind now on the show.
So many.
They'd be like, oh, Brian Toney once said, blah, blah, blah.
Actually, I think from just this episode, I have a couple of great polls that could be used against me.
So, the Phantom Killer was never caught. The Moonlight Killer, never caught. But there were some suspects.
200 by my count.
Well, actually, they did arrest some people and were held for questioning, but they eventually had to let them go and couldn't charge
So I
these
didn't have
people.
anything.
You said 200. It was actually 400 before the end of it.
My mistake.
Yeah. But there is a prime suspect that comes up on everything that you'll read about this.
6 feet tall?
Well, let's talk about him.
All right.
It begins, it's a little bit of a convoluted story. I'm going to try to walk you through this. With an officer named Max Tackett.
I like it.
He's a 33-year-old state trooper.
Cool.
He was a rookie at this time.
Cool.
But he hears about the murders, and he's like, wait a minute. I remember that a car had been stolen on the night of one of the murders, and a previously stolen car had been found abandoned.
Okay.
On Friday, June 28th, 1946, Tackett found a car that had been reported stolen in a parking lot. He staked the car out until someone came back to it. Someone did. It was a 21-year-old woman. Tackett apprehended her, and she said that she had just married her husband in Shreveport, but that he was currently in Atlanta, Texas, trying to sell a different stolen car. The chief of police in Atlanta told Tackett that a man had tried selling a stolen car to a local resident. Tackett asked that resident if he would recognize the suspect, and the man said, "No, I don't think I'd be able to." But Tackett was keen-eyed and noticed that this particular person had a very distinct look, which they point out included a cowboy hat and boots. I don't know if that's really that distinct in Texas
distinctive
or in Arkansas, but okay.
Sounds like a Texas Ranger to me.
But it was definitely distinct enough, apparently, because Tackett told the guy, "Look, you might not recognize the man, but he would definitely recognize you." So he said, "Why don't you and I hit the town? We'll go to some public places. That way, if the suspect sees you, they're not going to want to make eye contact with you. They're going to try to avoid you." So on a Saturday in July, Tackett walked into the Arkansas Motor Coach bus station with this guy that was almost sold a stolen car. Tackett saw a man run out of the back of the building as soon as the citizen walked in. He chased after him and caught him on the fire escape.
Wow.
The man was named Ewell Sweeney.
Ewell?
Yes.
All right.
And he would not talk. But remember that 21-year-old woman that he had found?
I do.
Her name was Peggy. And she was his wife. But she confessed in great detail that he was the Phantom Killer and that he had killed Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin.
Okay.
By law, back in 1946, Peggy could not be made to testify against her own husband.
Could not be made to or could not?
It says made to, but I'm not sure. Because she was considered an unreliable witness, Ewell was not actually arrested for the murder. Instead, with only circumstantial evidence, Ewell was sent to prison for being a habitual offender regarding the car theft.
Okay.
Now, there is a good amount of circumstantial evidence around this guy. First of all, his wife was arrested with those stolen cars and everything on the night of the Griffin and Moore murders. When Tackett caught Ewell Sweeney on the fire escape, Ewell said, "Please don't shoot me." And Tackett replied, "I'm not going to shoot you for stealing cars." And Ewell said, "Mister, don't play games with me. You want me for more than stealing cars."
All right. Not a great admission.
When
I thought they said this guy was clever.
When Ewell was in the police car, he asked another officer, he said, "Hey, what do you think they'll do to me for this? Will they give me the chair?" And the officer responded, "You won't get much, maybe 5 or 10 years. They don't give the electric chair for stealing cars."
I'm trying to incriminate myself over here.
And Ewell said, "You got me for more than stealing cars."
God damn it. Come on.
When a lawyer told Peggy that her husband was being held for murder, she exclaimed, "How'd they find out?" Peggy took officers near the spot where Paul Martin's car was found. She said she went into the woods from there. The officers found a woman's heel prints in that area. Peggy's family and Ewell's brother-in-law believed that Ewell was the Phantom. Police found a khaki work shirt in the suspect's room with a laundry mark of the word Stark, which was read under black light. Now remember, Miss Virgil Stark was a welder, so he presumably could be wearing these shirts at work and then getting them laundered, and that's how you get the laundry tag. Stark. In the front pocket of the work shirt, slag was found, which matched samples found in Virgil Stark's welding shop.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Right?
That's stretching circumstantial at this point.
Ewell had owned a .32 caliber Colt automatic, but had previously lost it at a crap game.
Sure, he did.
While
Actually, that's still possible, now that I think about it. I had to get a .22. It was bullshit.
While being accused of murder, Ewell remained silent instead of pleading his innocence. His wife confessed to her husband's action, revealing very detailed information, including things the officers already knew and some things that they did not. So it sounds...
That ended up panning out?
Yeah, I guess so. It sounds like there was some pretty good clues, but there's some complications to all this, too. Yule's fingerprints did not match the latent prints found at the Booker Martin crime scene. Peggy eventually recanted her confession completely. The Texas Rangers and Sheriff Presley were not really convinced that Yule was actually the killer. Yule denied being the Phantom and never ever made a confession about it.
But what? They never talked to him and be like, well, hey, what was that more you were talking about?
Yeah.
Like, why do you say that?
Why did you repeatedly tell us that we should arrest you for more than car theft? Yeah.
I stole gum. That's weird. Well, I also wonder why she was unreliable. Because she recanted,
well, they
or 'cause
investigated
she said
her
other
story.
stuff. Yeah.
And they, from their own investigation, they believe that Peggy was lying. And that actually on the night of the murder of Booker and Martin, the couple were sleeping in their car under a bridge near San Antonio.
Okay. Because how did they prove
I
that?
don't know, but that's what they came up with. Also, this, you can weigh this evidence however you like, but
Oh, I will.
either as a sick prank or a true confession, an anonymous woman contacted family members of victims, one in 1999 and another in the year 2000. She called and apologized for what her father had done. Now, that could just be some nut. Who knows? But it is something to note that Yule Sweeney never did have a daughter.
Okay.
So if that it was a true somebody, I don't
Yeah,
put too
I'm
much
not
weight
gonna.
in it. But
Yeah.
and closing up here, the town Texarkana now is famous as the town that dreaded sundown. And they made the movie in 1976. And saying it's a good movie might be going too far.
From what you told me, yeah, it might be.
But it is what I would consider a good rainy Sunday afternoon
Murder movie.
Yeah. Like I used to watch with my mom when I was a kid.
You and I like different things. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Trombone death.
But anyway, the movie is only loosely based on the actual crimes. It's done in kind of a documentary style.
See, I don't like that.
It's only, I mean, like, it's an actual movie, but there is narration over it.
Yeah.
And they kind of present it as, whatever. And it's really based on Captain Gonzalez's recollections of the case. And there's a character that's based on him. That's kind of the hero of the movie.
Was this made by Captain Gonzalez and his family?
Well, the thing is that now, every year, right around Halloween time, the movie is shown in Texarkana in a public park.
I have a lot of feelings about that. I'm sure people who live there have some feelings about it too.
Yeah, it's a free event sponsored by the town and the Texas Department of Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And these movie showings have been in tradition since 2003. The town has to pay like almost $200 for the movie to show it, to get a copy to show.
Yeah, that's short.
For a long time, the movie was not available on DVD or anything, but it was just released on Blu-ray.
Thank God.
Not just, I guess it was a while ago now, but on May 21st, 2013 by Scream Factory. It's also available online. There's also been another movie, kind of a sequel, I guess you'd say, although it's called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I think this was a 2013, 2014 movie.
It was a remake?
Yeah. And they talk about how the town shows this movie. And I haven't seen the whole thing.
Our period of meta horror.
Yeah.
I agree.
So now the Phantom Killer is back and he's attacking people at this movie or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like your traditional B horror movie, but I always get weirded out by things that are even inspired by something that really happened. Like, 5 people are dead. What do you want to do? We make a movie about it? Yeah, let's do that.
To me, that's not, I mean, that is what it is. People do that
I guess
fine.
so.
But the fact that the town where it happened is showing it, and it's not even like a generation past. I mean, now it is, but like there are possibly people that were still alive when this happened.
Yeah, that's
in town,
crazy.
including the killer, possibly.
Yeah.
Probably not by 20.
Sitting there in a
but
Scream mask with popcorn.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. That's very inaccurate.
trombone.
Yeah. They did capture my walk, though. Nah, I mean, you say that Texarkana is famous for this. I did not that famous, I don't think. Like, I had heard of Texarkana before, and I never heard of this. But if they are even a little bit famous about it, maybe they're kind of sick of being associated with it, and showing the movie is sort of a way to maybe, yeah, fine, we'll own this, and we'll be that town, because that's what y'all think of us anyway.
I would bet that it has more to do with people growing up maybe in the 80s,
Yeah.
being from the town, hearing
Yeah.
that there was this movie made about murders that happened in their own hometown, and they're like, oh, this happened here, that's so crazy, we should show the movie, and then it kind of goes from there, these youngins.
Yeah,
that
you're
don't have
probably
the full,
right. That have no emotional impact.
and it's probably only going to get worse if the case gets more famous or whatever. I mean, look, I'm the fucking Witchfinder General of Salem, Massachusetts,
You're here?
and that whole town is based on a tragedy that happened, but we kind of like, it's all right, it was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
So
No big deal.
So I can't talk too much shit, but that's,
I'll do it for you.
yeah, people will be putting on their phantom masks and walking around Texas.
Yeah, I don't like it. But I guess, I mean, you would know better than me. There's probably a bunch of movies. Like, we've even talked about several movies that are based on strange deaths. Like,
Yeah.
So I guess some people find that very compelling, and I don't know why, because it makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, it happens all the time, and then it
yeah.
adds a little something to be like, oh, this is based on a true story. But it also reminds me of the Mitch Hedberg joke, which if you'll allow me to massacre, I will.
Let's do it.
But they're like, a movie can be, I think it's Mitch Hedberg, and he's something like, a movie can be based on true events or inspired by true events. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I heard about a bank robbery, and that inspired me to write a movie about a bear.
That's right.
So, anyway, it's funnier when he tells it, but
I believe it was a gorilla as well. But I could be mistaken. Yeah, and I feel like I'm belaboring this, but I don't find that compelling. Well, maybe compelling is the wrong word, but it's not like these murders, like, they may have rocked a community, but that's not what the movie's about. It's about this guy who just kills people at lovers' lanes. Like, that could be any story. Like, there's no reason to tie it to these actual events and to add trombone style, like, gross funny kills. I don't know.
Oh, one thing to point out about the movie. You remember the survivor who got shot in the face?
I do.
In the last one. In the movie, that is played by Dawn Wells of Gilligan's Island fame. That's Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island.
Okay.
Just saying.
Was
Tossing it in
this
there.
was many years post Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Okay. Fell on hard times and
No, she was doing it as a favor, I guess.
Oh,
She knew somebody involved, and she was like, all right.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure she came out of being shot in the face to still look stunning in this version. Yeah, it was fine.
All right, Brian. So this ends part 2
We did it.
of the Moonlight Murders.
Oh man. I feel like if you listen to this show, you already you know what you're getting, and you know that you like it. But just to recap, this is the kind of show where talking about a series of grisly murders in the 40s gets Eric so excited that he has to make it into a 2-parter. So these are your people, Eric.
Excuse me. Not so excited in the sense like.
No.
But there's a lot of
that's not
information
what
to get out. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not judging you again.
Jeez.
I feel like
You
I've
are
said that 3
judging me.
times.
Yeah, you keep coming over here, so let's not pretend I'm alone in this.
Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
All right. Listen, everybody, I'm going to point you once again to the website spookyasshit.com or spookyas.com. Both take you to the show's blog page. You can find our social media links from there. We are at spookyasshit on both Instagram and Twitter. And like us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas. Please remember to rate and subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or wherever else you listen.
Rate it best.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, comments, or show ideas, you can send those to me at spookyasshit@gmail.com. And please share the show with your friends, all your spooky friends. We need more spookaroos. Got to grow the spookaroo army.
Like an army of
There's
darkness.
a revolution coming.
Oh,
We need to be ready.
oh boy. Against who? Like boring people who don't.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Who are your
bullshit.
opponents in this war?
All right. Brian,
Yeah.
thanks for coming again.
You're very welcome.
Or staying here to continue to talk about things.
Yes, grisly things.
I'm going to let you go now.
I appreciate
Since
it.
I know you're so sensitive and you would.
I am
you don't
thoroughly
get-
depressed
You
now.
don't get joy from talking about these things.
Oh, I like talking to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, next time I won't have you on a murder show. I'll have you on a.
I'd like
It'll be
that.
different.
I'd like
I
that.
had to do a murder. It's been a
I
long
know.
time.
You,
I haven't.
You have a Jones.
I mean, listen. People might think we talk about murder a lot. The last actual murder episode I did was all the way back in February.
it's a lot of months without a murder.
Yeah. So here we are.
You should have like theme months. Do like a murder month, like a movie month.
All right. Well,
I don't.
the listeners can write in and
Spitballing.
let me know via Facebook or the email if they like that idea.
That wonderful idea.
Okay. Let's all get out of here.
Let's do it.
Brian, thanks again.
You
Until
got it,
next
man.
time, everybody, don't be afraid.